Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple issues are really important for my area as well. Much money is being spent on the CVPIA to improve conditions for salmon. One such plan that's even been touted was like a $50 million idea to truck salmon around the Shasta Dam, put them above in Lake Shasta, which is something I think even environmental groups have said would not be very successful. We're seeing that there was a threat earlier this year to not allow diversions from the Sacramento River to senior contractors until June 1. If the lake didn't reach a particular level, then they started dumping water out of the lake to keep it from reaching the level, so that farmers wouldn't receive diversions until June 1. And if anybody knows anything about the spring and when you plant, that's an extreme hardship. Now the lake reached the level it needed to, so water will be delivered, but there was a threat that it may not happen. So we, bringing up an earlier subject under CVPIA, again, it's tasked with doubling the population of striped bass. How much is being done on that? You know, I'm not sure how much our striped bass deniers are want to dispute that, but there is a very robust population of them, and they have devastating effects on the salmon population that we're trying to save. So any effort that would continue to want to double that striped bass population, whether it's being expended or whether the government's following its law or not, we have a problem as is. So what I'd like to ask is, Mr. Iseman, what actions are federal agencies already actually taking to address the predation of salmon in the river, whether striped bass or other beings? Is what proactive actions are being done to do that?
Well, we know under the CVPIA and the biological opinions that we are taking a suite of actions to try to recover the fish species. That includes dealing with predation, but also other activities to promote habitat and recovery of the species. If you would like more information about specific investments in dealing with predation on endangered species, we could provide that for the record.
Well, just off the top of your head, on predation itself, what can you give an instance of efforts that are being on the predation of the salmon?
Well, as I said, I would prefer to consult with our biologists in the field and get you a more complete and accurate response on our activities.
Okay, so nothing
predation.
for the committee today. All right.
Sorry.
So what additional actions that aren't being done that you know of that could be done on the predation?
Again, I'd like to consult with our biologists. I apologize. I'm just not the expert on non-native predation.
All right. Very good. Do you think that fishing regulations, if they were allowed to be updated in order to increase the take, removing or opening up the number of striped bass that can be taken by fishermen, would that be a positive component of the overall need?
Well, we know, as I said, predation is a significant issue. Fishing regulations are decided by the state.
Would the gentleman yield?
Certainly.
To your point, as was noted earlier, there is a state regulation on the limits of catch, as you're noting, but for the record, I think we should state that the catch is 2 fish per day, and the length is 18 inches. That's the current limit.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Cost. That's kind of where I'm going with that, is that maybe that catch number should be larger, and the type of fish you could take, the size should be expanded as well if we want to make significant gains. So appreciate that. Switching gears to a different topic under CVPIA, Western Power, their administrator, testified just a few weeks ago that environmental costs by the CVPIA have driven the power prices to twice the market rate of approximately 30 per megawatt. Constituents I have in Redding, Gridley, Biggs, and other communities that are contractors that are paying approximately $60 per megawatt, and yet have little information, which alludes to Mr. Gozar's bill, about how the revenues are used, or even less input on the decision-making process. So over $1 billion spent, and I better hurry here. Mr. Downen, do you think these purchasers of federal power should have made clear to them what the value is in knowing these costs, or should they be in on knowing what these costs are?
I think any transparency creates a lot better discussion in the Northwest or any region of the country, and so yes, I think that these costs should be put on the PMA power bill.
Because these contracts could, or my understanding, run out fairly soon, and they can see other contractors to get this power from leaving the CVP. Mr. Chairman, I'll be back. We have a second round a little bit later?
We do not have a plan for a second round.
Okay.
Do you have a quick question you want to go ahead and dispatch, or do you? We'll go to Mr. Costa next, but I want to make sure you're.
Thank you. I appreciate the
Yeah.
indulgence on that. So, because as it is, the contractors through CVPIA, they receive little more than just a bill. So, if there was greater transparency, do you think the ratepayers receive enough information as is?
Well, I think that this additional information would be very useful because, per your earlier comment, the ratepayers, the utilities in the Pacific Northwest currently have long-term contracts that are 20-year contracts, but 12 years from expiring. And at that time, yes, they can leave Bonneville Power to have their electricity loads met in other ways. And if we continue to see these cost trajectories with Fish and Wildlife, utilities could leave Bonneville Power, and that would essentially negate a fish program, because without ratepayers to pay for the fish program, it's very difficult for Bonneville to find funding.
So
yes,
perhaps they would feel a little bit better about the process if it was disclosed and maybe continue to be contractors in the future. All right. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
I appreciate it next time.
Okay.